Have you ever stopped to think about how something complex gets made, like a really technical jacket, maybe? You've got the designer's vision, then pattern makers, factory teams, maybe continents apart. How do they all stay on the same page?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? Especially with something like seams. Get one wrong, and it can be a disaster.
It feels like you'd need a universal language almost. Avoiding mistakes, ensuring that consistency, it must be tough.
It really can be. Costly mistakes happen all the time.
So today, we're actually doing a deep dive into a solution for that very problem. It's called the ABC Seams Code System, or ASCS. And it's fascinating because it's not just about, basic sewing instructions. It's pitched as a universal visual language for seams.
That's a great way to put it. It aims to turn the, maybe, art of sewing into more of a precise technical science, especially for manufacturing.
So the mission today really is to unpack this system. How does ASCS actually work?
Right. We want to explore how it boosts communication, drives efficiency, that's a big one, and really lifts the quality of the final garment. And it's surprisingly intuitive.
Definitely. Let's maybe track an imaginary product, say a new technical jacket.
Yeah.
Let's call it the Summit Seeker.
Okay, good example. High performance, lots of specific seams.
Yeah. We'll see how ASCS would ensure the Summit Seeker looks and performs exactly as designed, no matter where it's made. One visual language.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's start peeling back the layers.
Yeah.
What is ASCS at its heart? The sources describe it as this visual language for identifying, coding, and communicating sewing seams. Very precise, very technical.
And its core purpose, fundamentally, is to clear up communication channels, specifically between designers, the technicians, the product developers, and the manufacturing teams.
Makes sense.
Think about the clarity that brings to tech packs, those detailed blueprints for garments. A small misunderstanding there can mean thousands of faulty items. ASCS aims to just eliminate that ambiguity.
And for our Summit Seeker jacket, or any product really,
Mm-hmm.
why is that level of precision so vital?
Well, the source material is pretty clear on this. It improves clarity, consistency, and efficiency.
Right. Three big words in manufacturing.
Absolutely. Across all the documentation involved in developing a garment, that really does sound like a game changer for brands, doesn't it?
It really does. Not just for how things look, but, the bottom line.
For sure. And looking bigger picture, ASCS tackles this long-standing industry need. It takes inspiration from things like ISO 4916. But where ASCS is different, and this is key, is that it was developed from a designer's perspective.
Ah, okay. So more user-focused.
Exactly. That makes it inherently more visual, more intuitive, and just more practical for the people actually using it day to day. It bridges that gap between pure technical specs and, well, creative application.
That's a really important distinction. Can you think of an example that the ASCS visual helps? Maybe for our Summit Seeker.
Oh, definitely. Let's say the designer wants a very specific seam on a waterproof pocket. Maybe it needs to be super durable, but also look quite clean, quite minimal.
Okay.
A standard technical code might just say, use a flat-felled seam. End of story.
Right. Which could be interpreted slightly differently.
Precisely. But the ASCS code, say C100, comes with a clear visual diagram. It shows how the fabric layers fold. It shows the number of top stitches, their exact position.
So it's visual proof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone sees the exact same thing. The visual intent is locked in.
So, okay, it sounds specialized, but with that designer focus, who is this actually for? Is it just engineers and technical designers?
Well, they're certainly the main users, yes. Technical designers, product developers, it's essential for them.
But it goes wider.
Much wider. Think about fashion students and educators. They use it to learn and teach. Then you have the factories, the production teams, the inspection teams. For them, it's a clear guide for how to make it and what quality looks like. No guesswork when the Summit Seeker instructions land.
Reduces friction there.
Massively. And interestingly, even sewing enthusiasts, people sewing at home, can use ASCS concepts to, up their game, get that professional finish.
Wow, okay. That's broader than I expected. So when all these different people using ASCS, what are the real tangible wins for the brands?
The benefits for brands are very concrete.
Like what?
They use ASCS to guarantee consistency. Consistency between the tech pack, the physical samples they approve, and what finally rolls off the production line.
Okay, that link is crucial.
Crucial, and they see a big reduction in the number of prototypes needed for each style.
Which saves.
Huge amounts of time and money. Prototypes are expensive and slow things down. ASCS helps get it right, faster.
Fewer rounds of back and forth.
Exactly. It cuts down on misinterpretations in the construction details, avoids manufacturing errors, and ultimately it just improves product quality right from the get-go.
That really raises a point. In an industry that moves so fast, think about those savings. Less rework, fewer prototypes. That's real money, real time.
It is. I actually worked with a client once before they used ASCS who had constant issues with their denim jeans. Different factories interpreted crotch seam slightly differently.
Now I can imagine the problems that caused.
Yeah. ASCS basically solved that overnight by providing one clear visual definition. It optimizes that whole complex chain, impacts profit, impacts brand reputation.
Right. Okay, so let's get practical. How does this system actually work? How does it guide someone to the right seam for our summit seeker? You mentioned visual diagrams and codes.
Yes, and it's structured really logically. It helps users pick the best seam in basically 3 straightforward steps.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1, define the category. What's the seam's main job? Its purpose.
Purpose, okay, like...
Is it a construction seam? These are the ones joining main panels, giving the garment its shape. Think side seams, shoulder seams.
The structural ones.
Exactly. Or is it a finish seam? Its job is to neaten or close an edge like hems, necklines, maybe a zipper placket.
Okay.
And the third category is detail seam. These add shape or decoration like darts, pleats, maybe some decorative top stitching, pin tucks.
Got it. So category first. What's step 2?
Step 2, choose the seam structure. Now you start thinking about the specifics of the garment. The summit seeker needs to be tough, right? It's end use and exactly where on the garment the seam is going.
So performance comes in here, durability, how it looks.
All of that.
Can you give some examples from this system?
Sure. The source mentions using a French seam, C010, for, say, the side seams on a lightweight sheer blouse. It gives that beautiful, clean finish inside and out.
Right, no raw edges visible.
Exactly. But for our summit seeker's crotch, a high stress point, you'd maybe choose a welt seam, C110. Super strong, very durable.
Okay. Different structure for a different need.
Totally. Or maybe a felt seam, C100, inside a lined jacket versus a bound seam, C101, for an unlined jacket, where you need to neatly encase those raw edges. Each structure solves a specific problem.
Wow, okay. Those examples really help visualize it. It's not just abstract codes. It's about choosing the right tool for the job. So category, then structure. What's the final step?
Step 3.
Stitch and top stitch. How are they different?
The stitch is the actual method used to join the fabric layers together. Are you using a standard lock stitch, an overlock stitch to finish the edge and seam it at the same time, a chain stitch for something that needs stretch?
Got it. The underlying construction stitch.
Right. And then the top stitch is any stitching that's visible on the outside of the garment. How many rows? Single needle, double needle. Where is it positioned? Is it purely functional or decorative? And interestingly, you might start this step focusing on the stitch type for technical reasons, like waterproofing the summit seeker, or you might start by defining the top stitch because the visual design is paramount.
So you can approach it from either a technical or an aesthetic priority.
Precisely.
So for you listening, what this really means is that a complex decision, which seam goes where and how, gets broken down into these manageable, logical steps.
Right. It takes the guesswork out,
leading to better results, fewer mistakes, and ultimately a product that actually matches what the designer intended. Much more reliable.
Definitely.
Now, beyond just understanding the system, how do people actually get access to it? ASCS seems to offer different ways in for different users.
They do. And it's quite smart how they've tailored it. For fashion brands, big teams, they offer multi-user licenses. That gives them access to all the digital tools, the full seam code library, various ebooks, templates they can edit. It's the whole package for companies serious about quality and consistency.
Makes sense for a larger operation. What about smaller players?
For independent professionals like freelance designers or technical consultants, they can buy the collection of seam JPGs.
It's the images.
Yeah, diagrams they can drop right into their tech packs. It helps them work faster and look more professional.
Handy. And students, you mentioned them earlier.
Yeah, this is great. Students get free access to a large chunk of the library, over 150 seams in an online seam gallery.
Free access, that's fantastic.
It really is. They can browse, copy the diagrams, paste them into their projects. It lets them learn this professional standard right from the start. Democratizes the knowledge, really.
That's a really thoughtful approach, covering all those bases. Are there other learning resources, too, for people who want to go deeper?
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole range of resources. They publish several technical books.
Like reference guides?
Exactly. Things like 101 sewing seams, the most used seams by fashion designers, which is like a visual dictionary, or sewing seams for tech packs, a practical guide, and even one called Strong Seams, the catalog to design durable clothing.
Perfect for our summit seeker, focusing on durability.
Right. Then there are digital resources too. The JPG Seams Digital Library has over 570 illustrations ready.
Wow, 570, that's comprehensive.
It is. And things like printable sewing cards for more hands-on learning. Plus, alongside the paid stuff, they offer quite a few free resources.
Quack.
Downloadable guides, technical checklists, useful freebies, or just reference key information.
So, wrapping up our deep dive here, the ABC Seams code system shows how having a clear, consistent visual language can change how an industry works.
It's a powerful example of structured information making the complex manageable, making the intangible tangible.
Yeah. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it really underlines how focusing on foundational details, something as basic as a seam, can ripple outwards.
Absolutely. It affects design integrity, brand image, production speed, cost, and ultimately the quality of the thing you buy and wear. It demystifies those technical details.
For you listening, maybe think about this.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic case study in how breaking down complex information into these clear coded components fuels innovation, even in a craft as old as sewing.
It really is. It prompts the question, doesn't it? How many other fields, creative or technical, could benefit from their own version of ASCS, a detailed visual language to streamline work and improve collaboration?
That's a great final thought.